What is the definition of socialism? Socialism is a political and economic theory of social organization that advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole rather than private individuals. Socialism has a lot of subcategories like anarchism, communism, democratic socialism, libertarian socialism, and
Syndicalism.
Socialists value things like freedom of speech, the right to vote and be elected, the right to religious practice, the right to education, the right to healthcare, the right to food and water, the right to employment and payment, the right to social security and housing, and the right to leisure and rest. Socialists believe that all these things are basic human rights that should be entitled to everybody without discrimination of any sort. However, a society simply having these values implemented into their government doesn't make it a socialist society. An example of this would be Scandinavian nations. Whilst they do offer free healthcare and college tuition, they do so within the framework of a capitalist economy. And despite how great these free services are, these nations can only justify these services being free due to cheap offshore labor and by having very high taxes. Scandinavian countries have some of the highest taxes in the world, and they're some of the most expensive places to live in. What's wrong with capitalism? Despite what you may have been told, many socialists do not despise capitalism. They just see the system as being outdated for the modern world. It can be compared to how many people view feudalism today, where lands were owned by kings of a certain area, who then gave the land to lords in exchange for their service, who also gave their land by the king to lesser lords for their service, who did the same to local lords, who did the same to peasants. Feudalism eventually died out due to kings no longer requiring the services of their greater lords, and the economic importance of towns became larger and larger, ushering in capitalism to these areas. There is no question that capitalism increased global production. However, society must move forward and bring in a system that is superior to capitalism to further advance humanity. Well, what's wrong with capitalism? Essentially, capitalism allows for anyone that has enough capital to create a business and produce anything they want. They do not have to care about any sort of democracy in the workplace, as employees must do as they are told, and they do not have to care about the environmental damage they are causing to the planet. Business owners do not have to care about whether or not their business is producing anything necessary for society. They just have to worry about what brings in more and more money. Since there is no financial incentive to make anything in a socialist society, goods are made solely because they are useful and or improve the quality of life for people. And since socialism does not have business owners, workers also have a say in how a business operates. It would be like if you were going out to get food with 3 of your friends, and one friend wanted to get tacos. However, you and the other 2 friends wanted to get some burgers. If this was an example of a capitalist workplace, and let's just say your friend that wanted to get tacos was the business owner, and you and the other 2 friends were his employees, then he would just say, well, it's too bad, we're going to get tacos because I said so. And you all had to do it whether or not you wanted to. However, in a socialist society, the friend that wants to get tacos would have to agree with you, since the majority of people wanted to get burgers. Okay, but who's going to work in this society? Let's make an example. You and 2 of your friends live on a farm, and you all need to make a barn. So someone chops the wood, someone makes plans to build the farm, and someone drags the wood to where the barn is supposed to be built. And then you all build the barn together. Because all 3 of you need the barn, and all 3 of you are going to use the barn, there is no need for money to be exchanged during this process. People would work out of a sense of obligation to give back to the community that keeps them alive. What about the parasites? Wouldn't they just leech off the work of others? To put it simply, no. Workers will get the credit they deserve. A doctor naturally contributes more to society than a janitor does, so therefore a doctor would get more than a janitor. Although everyone is provided food, water, a home, healthcare and education, those that contribute might get nicer items, more vacation time or days off, and etc. Simply because it becomes a fundamental right for everyone to have access to basic amenities doesn't mean that nobody can stand out. What do you think about socialism? If you want to read more about socialism, I implore you to check out socialism101.com, where a lot of the material from this video was found. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next.
Death is a preferable alternative to communism.
Oh no.